So today we're going to have a questions and answers format. And it's been a while since we had this Q&A sessions with our partners. But before you start asking your questions and I answer those questions, I would like to first place some emphasis on our work. First, dear colleagues, I planned today, I announced last time that today I would give you the date for the transition to the Micron Global platform from the RSW Systems platform. And we have to postpone it. The date will still be open, but let me assure you that we are working on the final steps related to testing. So we're still testing to make sure that everything works flawlessly. And this is the only reason why we haven't yet launched the platform. We want to be it perfect. And the closed meeting that we were going to have tomorrow will also be postponed. And let's keep the date open. Just follow the news. And I'm talking about especially those participants who participated in the closed meeting last Sunday. And I will give you the information about it later when we're going to have that meeting. Also, very soon, we're going to have a very significant document from GTI eventually, showing us the 10-year development plan, development strategy. And very soon, we're going to have that document public. And we will have a meeting with our colleagues with SWC from SWC. So watch the news, follow the news, and see where that event is going to be held. There will be some very important information and statements made at that meeting aimed at our common cause, so that in the next 10 years we would jointly achieve huge results in helping implement the UST technology in the current state, and then help it scale up using the crowd investing to make it even more productive with better results. So next week is going to be quite news packed, and the upcoming meetings that we're going to have are going to be quite important. I'm talking about the end of the year meeting, the summary meeting, and then the transition to the updated marketing platform. So colleagues, upcoming weeks are going to bring us quite a lot of inspiring information, both about the development of the string transportation technology and our work in the crowd investing area. I would like to point out on a separate note the news that we could see on the GTI website. I'm talking about also UST website. There were quite fundamental video about how difficult the standardization process is, the UST standardization, testing and certification. And the video, I recommend you watch that video. I recommend all of our investors watch that video if you haven't yet. And a lot of your questions are going to be definitely answered in terms of the prospects of the technology and the investments into that technology. And if we take the Karat film, for example, that was published like months ago, I think, and what we saw about the certification of the technology of the string transportation, the tests and everything related to that process, then we can make a bold statement that this is not going to take long. This is something that's going to happen quite quickly, considering the sector we're in and how much time developments and research in that sector usually takes. And this is why I strongly recommend you watch the recent video published on the official YouTube channel of UST. And also, dear colleagues, I wanted to point out that the string transportation technology is gaining momentum more and more and attracting interest from different international organizations. And literally, probably a week ago or 2 weeks ago, there was a forum, the seventh International Municipal Forum of BRICS countries that was held on the 20th, 21st of November in St. Petersburg. And at that forum, there were more than 5,000 participants. Just think about it. 79 countries from the entire world. And it was focused on the social economic development of the municipal areas, increasing the investment attractiveness of cities and countries of BRICS, and then strengthening the relations between BRICS. And a strategic session on the sustainable development of BRICS was also held. And the UST company was a co-host of that event, which generated a lot of interest and attention from official structures, bodies of those countries that participated in the meeting, and heads of municipalities. So, colleagues, this is yet another proof and indicator to what I've been telling you about during my meetings throughout the year and in previous years, that thanks to the first commercial projects, specifically the project implemented in Aquarel Park, and the second project that is now being implemented, and hopefully it will be implemented in the next 1-2 years, 2026, 2027, in the resort area Sosny in Belarus. Thanks to those projects, the interest towards the string transportation technology is going to grow and will be growing in all the countries of the world because the technology has proven its viability. Remember, a couple of meetings ago, I told you that we're still in the venture, at the venture stage of the project. And one of the reasons for that was that currently there is no scalability or duplication of the technology. And it is at that stage that we are at the venture stage. And the company's participation at the BRICS Forum shows us that the technology will scale up and will implement in bigger and bigger scale. And the number of customers will grow on a regular basis. And Alexander wrote in the chat that the higher ranking officials already start understanding that they can't do without us. Yes, indeed. In the 21st century, it is logical to assume that string transportation technology should be in demand. And many years ago, when we just started this crowd investing process, I often mentioned that, and I'm still mentioning it, that this string transportation transportation technology has seen no innovation in the last 200 years. First, it was a internal combustion engine, four wheels, the body of the car, and that's it. The car never actually changed. It got better, but never actually changed. And it's now there is some kind of modernization due to replacing one engine type of the engine with another type of the engine. Like it used to be internal combustion engine, now it's a electric motor or a battery. So it's electricity driven. They added some kind of digital gadgets into it, electronic gadgets. And all of the cars now use electronic gadgets, but there have been any actual innovations in the car making industry. The same stands for railroad transportation, aviation, the same. Someone says the sound is not good, you get interrupted. Dear colleagues, what about others? Or is it just me? So probably, Vitaly, if it's at your end, probably your internet connectivity is not good. So here, friends, in the 21st century, we have the string transportation technology going into the arena that combined in itself all the solutions to the problems faced by other transportation kinds like cars, trains, aviation, airplanes, etc. So, as Alexander said, I completely agree with Alexander that the interest will be growing into the technology, and this is time for the technology to scale up, which we can all witness with our own eyes. So, colleagues, let me remind you, all of you, that currently, while the Micron Global platform is not yet launched, on RSW systems, we still have the promotional discounts on that were launched to dedicated to the rebranding of our platform. And the discounts are very juicy. And the only bad thing about those discounts is that going to end very soon. Because once we launch our updated Micron platform, Micron Global platform, those discounts will be reduced by at least 30%. And this is quite a sizable reduction, you must agree. Also, let me remind you that the year 2025 is coming to an end, and if the GTI group of companies shows positive financial performance at the end of the year 2025, we have a hope that that's what's going to happen. We can expect remuneration in 2026 based on the financial performance of 2025. But again, provided the company makes a positive net profit. And if it happens, then your remuneration will depend on the number of shares that have been issued to your name before the end of the year 2025. I hope I made myself clear here. So, what does it tell us as clients of RSW systems? It means that if you have still unpaid installment plans that you opened summer or autumn this year, if you finish paying those installment plan in February or January, then the shares allocated after that will not participate in the profit sharing. You understand? So if the company makes a net profit in 2025, then probably it's in our interest to close our installments plans in December 2025 to have more shares that will be counted towards your remuneration, towards your dividends. And as for those people who are not yet investors, then probably it's time for you to buy the pre-IPO shares. Because even if you do not close your installments plans by the end of 2025, you will still have GTI pre-IPO shares in your portfolio at a good discount. Because at the discount 144, you get 144,000 shares for $1,000. And if the discount is reduced by 30%, then reduce 144,000 shares by 30%, which is almost like 40,000 shares. And in the long term, this is a sizable cut, and it will affect your eventual returns on your investments and capitalization of your assets. So please bear in mind this if you want to increase your portfolio, or in order to attract other investors that are close to you, that you know, and who would like to become an investor and haven't become investors yet. So I repeat, payouts can be expected if the company makes a net profit in 2025. In other words, if the financial performance of the company in 2025 is positive. In this case, dividends will be paid in 2026. If it doesn't happen, then we can surely expect the company to make a net profit in 2026 and 2027. That's for sure. However, The company will be able to make a net profit if crowd investing covers the costs of GTI until the company starts making gaining sustainable development. So you remember that GTI is still selling its unsold pre-IPO shares, and the money from the sale of those pre-IPO shares is used to support the entire group of companies to cover its operational costs and to finance its development. And the money that GTI company, the engineering company, receives for its orders and for its engineering business, that money will generate the profits of the company, and investors will be able to share in those profits. In other words, the money raised by crowd investing will be used to maintain the company's operations, and the net profit will be used to pay out remuneration to its investors. So a lot of responsibility is on our shoulders to make sure that this model works. But of course, it will depend on how active we are and how serious we are about this whole business. Okay, colleagues, I'm now waiting for your questions, and the next 30 to 40 minutes will be dedicated to questions and answers. Meanwhile, you can ask your questions in the chat, and I will go fetch some water. Just give me 15 seconds. And let me kindly remind you to translate your questions into Russian first, if your native language is not Russian. So Maxim can read your questions in his language. Okay, let's continue. So someone is saying, hello, Maxim. Did you clarify the opportunity to invest for investors from Russia? Valery, we're still working on it. The legal department is still clarifying this question. Dmitry Filipov says that the news channels about UST investors from Russia on YouTube and Vimeo do not work in Russia, and using VPN to watch those videos does not allow them. We cannot use VPN even. So we need to use VK and RuTube to disseminate information about UST. I'm not sure Vimeo is blocked in Russia. So you can follow the news in a video format, and Vimeo is not blocked in Russia at all. Let's see what we have next. What's going to happen with the tokens if the partners who changed shares for tokens don't have enough time to exchange them all? I have a huge structure and a lot of them are elderly people. Don't worry. Don't worry. You can use you can go to the support and get a better answer to your question, and they will give you all the information to make sure that you address your issue, because there are no limitations on terms of the token conversion. As far as I know, I don't know anything about it. So please write to the support, Svetlana, and I'm sure our colleagues will give you a detailed answer to this question. Where can I see the infographic of the structure of the entire holding company with its platforms? DNK is asking. So we don't have this kind of infographics. On the GTI website, we have the ownership structure of the company with all the legal entities that are part of the GTI group, where GTI is a founder and owner, but no infographics. Well, we're gonna have infographics in our training session on Micron Global website, and starting next year, we're going to have more and more materials added to the training section. And infographics will also be there in our presentational materials that will be shown during webinars, presentations, and trainings, etc. Everything related to dissemination of information and education. Venera Sabachova, what should those who do not know how to exchange tokens for shares do, but they want to exchange tokens for shares? Well, again, please go to the support. They have qualified specialists who can help you out. Is it possible to transfer the 600 discount from SWC to RSW so that then I can invest in Micron Global at the discounts 600 in 2026? Okay, so Vladislav, sorry, please write to the customer support, and if there are no limitations on the SWC, restrictions on SWC platform, then you can do that. And it depends on the limitations imposed by the original platform where you bought the package. Maya is saying, can I my pay for my investments in stable coins? Of course, of course. Stable coins are a payment method, valid payment methods. We still have it on RSW. You're saying that you had some difficulties though, and anyways, don't worry. On Micron Global, you will have an opportunity to pay in crypto, in stable coins. So what is going to be the commission paid for personally invited partners? That information will be given during the closed meeting. I will tell you more about it at that meeting. There I will present the marketing plan. So I answered the question regarding the shares given for the GCNCI 2025. You will be given those shares. And let me remind you, until the end of the year, you will be credited those shares manually by the end of the year. So please have some patience and you will have all your shares. So I answered about the Russian Federation investors. So once the Micron Global is launched, do we have to invest there as well? Well, as for your personal investments, Micron Global, all your data will be migrated to the Micron Global on your previous investments. And the shareholders registry extract available on your RSW systems platform will also be available on the new platform. So you'll have access to that extract. So, and if you want to preserve the status or increase your status in the new marketing plan, your previous purchases will be sufficient. So you don't have to make new purchases. But if you need to make more purchases in order to gain a certain rank, then you will have to make new purchases on the new platform. So it all depends on what rank you're aiming at. So you don't really have to purchase new packages because all your old purchases will be counted towards your new ranks on the new platform. Okay? According to the new compensation plan. So you don't have to make any extra packages unless you want to have a higher rank according to the new compensation plan. You just probably have to be an active affiliate partner if you want to make more money. What if I divorce with my spouse? Will UST pre-IPO shares be split between divorcees? Well, it depends on your law in your country, whether you declared that those assets as your family income. So it's not a question to us, it's a question about how the law works in your country. whether you split it 50-50 or in any other way. Guys, we have more than 200 people here today, and I have very few questions only. So it's my kind of, I would be very glad to answer your questions if you ask those questions. And probably you've been wanting to ask that question, and you now have a chance to get an answer. How long will RSW systems be available if the investors will not join Minecraft Global? Well, for a couple of years for sure. You will have at least a couple of years to use RSW systems as your archive of your purchase history and other things. Don't worry. Let me remind you that RSW systems will not stop existing. It will keep on working, but only as a back office for storing your personal data about your previous investments into GTI, into UST by the company GTI. So this is important thing to remember. If what you won't have on the old platform is the opportunity to invest, to purchase new packages. You won't see news feed. What you will have there is your purchase history plus the opportunity to finish paying your installment plans on the yet unpaid installments. We're not going to migrate installment plans to the new platform. So iPhone 5 is asking, well, that's what the username says. How can we withdraw our commission from the new platform? Like in RSW systems? Yes, exactly. In the same manner as you are doing it right now on RSW systems. So Valerie is asking, so if we do divorce and Russia says that the shares should be split between spouses, can GTI give us this technical possibility to split the shares between divorcees? Well, for GTI to take action, it needs the court decision for that. And it's a kind of a individual case, right? Matter. So I think if you write to the support first, they will refer that ticket to the legal department, and the legal department will see what the company can do and what the company can't do. Vinera, in answer to your question, in reply to your question, do we use the same email address to register on the new platform? Yes, you are using the same email that you used in RSW systems, and that email will be used for synchronization of data. You will be able to move money from your wallet on Micron Global to other people's wallets. And we will have customer support still working on RSW systems too. Vladislav, I don't know the answer to your question. You have to go to your colleagues and ask that question to them. I can't know the answer to the question you are asking. Okay? So let me see what we have here. Can partners from SWIG who haven't yet registered on RSW register in Micron Global without registering in RSW systems? Well, you can do that, but if you don't have any pre-IPO shares in Swig, then yes, you can directly register on Micron Global. But if you still have pre-IPO shares bought on Swig, you need to go through a chain of registrations. First, you register on RSW Systems using the email you used in Swig, and after that, you register using the same email in Micron Global. Okay? That's the difference. So this is how synchronization will be used, will happen using the API key. Venera is asking, if my partners register without my referral link, will they fall under me? No. It's kind of obvious, of course. If they didn't register using your referral link, they won't be in your structure. Only if they use your referral link, they will be registered under you. That's obvious. When we used to Micron, when we move to Micron, can we delete accounts on previous platforms if we don't want to use them anymore? Well, of course, if you don't have any purchases made on the previous accounts, on the accounts of the previous platforms, you can write to the support and they will delete it, especially if it wasn't verified and no actions were taken on it. But if that account is verified and there are pre-IPO shares assigned to that account, so don't do it. The next question is, so let me see what it says, this question here. Probably, can we place advertising on RSW Systems platform to motivate passive investors to investing? Well, it's a good proposal, but it's not about advertising on RSW Systems. It's about communicating with our current investors through email or other channels. So I think what you mean is, why not disseminate information on RSW Systems to motivate them? Well, I don't think there is any need to advertise RSW Systems if we're going to develop Micron Global platform. So someone says, I have SWG tokens. What do we need them for? So what is the deadline for transferring them to MetaMask? Well, as far as the tokens are concerned, please go to the customer support because it's a separate project within the UST technology domain. Crypto project is taken care of by a separate team. However, our customer support is aware of the situation and how it works. So it's a kind of a very specific question, and that question should be directed to our customer support, okay? Vyacheslav is saying, hello, Maxim. So IPO depends on the closure of the investment plan after rebranding. Thank you very much. Regards from Amsterdam. Okay, Vyacheslav, look. Kind of tough question. In order to launch an IPO, the company needs to have a stable financial positive performance. So basically, they need to make a stable net profit. The company needs to have an existing market that it works on and a number of other factors. And there is a separate memorandum on the official website of GTI. And there is a section dedicated to IPO. And it has nothing to do with our financial performance in crowd investing. Crowd investing in this period is used to make sure that the company remains in the market and becomes a viable company, because crowd investing is used to ensure the sustainability of the company. As for the external market that the company is going to right now, this is what will affect the IPO. So the performance on the external market will be the decisive factor and not our crowd investing efforts. So I suggest you go to the GTI website and see the IPO section in the declaration. And also, as I said, very soon there will be a big fundamental document published by GTI, which will show the 10-year development strategy of the company. And I'm sure there will be information about the IPO there as well. Andre saying, good evening. I cannot convert my tokens back into pre-IPO shares, and it's been half a year I couldn't do that. I don't know why, because all the people who went to the customer support had this issue solved. So either write to me in private and I will refer you to the specialist, or write to the customer support and they will help you convert your tokens back to your pre-IPO shares. Tamara is asking, why can't we just move our old structures to the new platform? Why should we register anew and build our structures anew that we built since 2014? The answer here is that the structure that you built on RSW systems was a linear and direct sales structure because it was a linear marketing, 5 levels only. And the way that your new structure, a new business is going to be conducted is very much different from what we have now. So it's not possible technically or logically, or it's not even reasonable to transfer the old structure with one marketing plan to a new platform that has a different marketing plan. They simply don't match. This is A. And B, a lot of partners who built their networks back in the day, especially in Swig, had very big structures. And a lot of changes happened since. And once the cooperation with between GTI and Swig ended, a lot of clients, investors, and partners left to other companies and other structures, and they are now under people who never even invited them to this business. So we decided to scratch everything and give a chance to all of our partners to build their new teams according to their desires, how they want to see their new structures, to be it as beneficial to you as possible. So you can decide your sponsor, you can decide on who you're going to have in your first line, second line, etc. Valery says, will we be able to move our bonus funds from RSW to MG? What about main account or from the first line main account? Well, you won't be able to move money from one platform to another because it will make the entire synchronization way more difficult. I mentioned it this summer, this year. And this is one of the reasons why we have the promotional offer called rebranding right now. So this is one of the reasons why we have such discounts right now, because we're giving you an opportunity to use your funds on the bonus and main accounts to increase your portfolio. Alexei is asking, will we need to use VPN on Micron Global? Well, right now, our developers are working to make sure you don't need a VPN to access Micron Global from Russia, for example. So the solution is out there, and let's see how it works once the platform is launched. So if my email on RSW systems doesn't work, how can I go to Micron Global? What do you mean your email doesn't work on RSW systems? You mean you cannot access your email anymore that you used to register in RSW systems? Then you need to recover your access. If you want to change your email address, then you need to write to the support. Next, Sohra is asking, will we be able to purchase shares in the name of minors, of underage children? Well, good question. But currently, I don't have an answer to this question. If there is a legal way to do that, then of course we will give you an opportunity to buy shares, pre-IPO shares in the name of your children, minors. I will put it down because that question was asked on a couple of occasions. Sergey is asking, I have elderly people partners in my team since 2015, and they were blocked because they weren't active. So they went to the support to ask the support to have shares they bought on Swig credited to their RSW systems, and the support didn't give them a reply. And how they can register in RSW systems if they cannot recover their email and they have their emails blocked. So if you lost access to your email in Swig, so how can we help you? For example, you have an account in Swig that you registered with an email address that you can't access. So you can't access your email account, you can't access Swig for obvious reasons. So how can we help you if you don't have access to your email and Swig doesn't work anymore? We see no possible solution here. So you have to somehow recover access to your email address. Stefka Stoyanov is asking, will we be able to nominate our heirs in Micron Global? Well, heritage is not the Micron Global's domain. It's not their responsibility. It's not their competence. Heirs are determined by law or by the will that you can write by law. But if the platform nominates an heir, it won't be legitimate. In order to nominate an heir for an investor into string transportation technology in GTI, you need to write your testament, your will, last will. So Venera is asking, so I need to use my referral link to invite all of my partners again to build my team? Yes, that's what I've been telling you this last year. You need to prepare your partners to call them. You have their contact details. You know who your partners are and build the structure the way you want to have that structure. Vladislav saying, so what you're saying that not all of the Russian citizens will be able to invest in Micron Global and the lawyers cannot give you an answer, right? Well, that's what I told you 20 minutes ago, that the lawyers are working on it. So it's still not a decided issue. I cannot be sure or not sure. I don't have an answer to you yet, whether the Russians will be able to invest or not. Dmitry is asking, when we will finally have the American shares? So American shares will become available to you and issued by the American company, high-speed transportation company. For that, the lawyers are working on building proper corporate structure in the United States. And when the corporate structure is set, they will issue shares in the name of all the people who have the right to get those shares if they purchased the ticket to the conference. And Dr. Unitsky has always been true to his word. And if he said that he's going to give it to you, them to you, he will do that. He will never go back on his word. So if he promised that he will give you shares in the American company, that's what's going to happen. But we'll have to have some patience because this is not an easy process in the United States, the issuance of shares. And those shares will have value once the hub is built in the United States and while the investment process is ongoing, while the construction will happen, and then a lot of other things need to happen before the hub is brought into operation. So don't worry, you will get your shares in due time, and right now those shares have your name on them, so don't worry. If, for example, the American company would launch their IPO and you would be able to sell those shares at a big price, then it would be really like urgent. But right now, there is no urgency and there is no need to hurry. Once everything is set, those shares will be issued in your name. Alexander says, hello, Maxim. I'm from St. Petersburg. In case of commercial success and financial performance in 2025, where will the dividends be paid? To our back office or on our bank card? I don't think remuneration will be paid to your bank cards. If the company shows positive financial performance, which we'll hope for, in my opinion, and I don't have the exact information right now, but what I think that most probably remuneration will be paid either to your back office or on some separate platform, but definitely not to your bank account or to your card, as it is usually the case with dividends, because it is not dividends, it's remuneration or returns or payout, not dividends. So I think that remuneration will be paid either to your back office or on some other platform that will be convenient for all. So colleagues, I will kindly ask you to stop asking questions now because we have quite a lot of them and I don't have enough time to answer all of them. So we have 12 questions to answer. Marina says that part of my ex-partners from SWIG registered in SWC. Some of them would like to work on Micron Global. Will their pre-IPO shares be moved to Micron Global platform from SWIG and SWC? It doesn't matter where you bought your shares because your name is added to the shareholders registry. That's it. So all of your partners are investors anyways. And if they're registered in RSW systems, their purchases will be migrated to history. Their purchases will be migrated to Micron Global. And if they move from RSW systems to Micron Global, of the, again, purchase history will be visible in their back office in Micron Global. And if they bought those pre-IPO shares in SWIG, and if they converted their shares, then they will get them on Micron Global too. So Sonu is asking about 15th stage, but the translation is bad here. Again, my answer to you is wait for the official document from GTI on their website, and they will tell us all about the 15th stage. And I already told you about the 15th stage. And I told you that the 15th stage is not relevant anymore in its original wording. because right now we have a different course, different vector. We have other strategical decisions made by the holding company. So the reorganization of this process of the 15th stage and of 15 stages is an expected process, and it can be any other way. So the 15 stages, the original 15 stages are not relevant anymore. And let's wait for the official documents to be published on GTI website. And when it is published, we will have a detailed understanding of where we're going, why we're going there, and what kind of result we're going to achieve. So please answer my question. One of my partners, investors, died, but his installments are not yet fully paid. How can I transfer his account to his child's account name, because his child is not yet of age, is underage, is under 18 years old. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not in a position to give you that answer. I think you should go to our customer support and they will refer your question to the lawyers. My condolences for this situation. I'm sorry, but I'm not a lawyer and cannot give you a correct answer. So we need a narrow field specialist to be able to answer your question, and our customer support will give you that answer. I already mentioned the date of the Micron Global launch. Unfortunately, because of the test, we still keep it open. Well, unfortunately on one side, but fortunately on the other side, we're doing our best to make sure everything works smoothly. Valery is asking when Micron Global is going to replace RSW systems. Will our Russian citizens be able to invest? Oh, guys, I already answered that question last time. There are no limitations for you to invest in RSW systems right now. So you still have time to invest on RSW systems and use the juicy discounts. It's 1 or 2 weeks tops, not more. And after that, we will move to the updated platform. And there I am not don't know yet whether Russians will be able to invest on Micron Global. But Russians can still invest on RSW systems. So yeah, you can still jump in the last car. Let's see. Will we all start from the same rank on Micron Global? Nelka is asking. Very good question. And no, the answer is no. People will start with different ranks because the personal purchase volume and partnership networks are different. And your personal purchase volume and your team's volume will directly affect your status, your rank. And those partners who already contributed greatly to the funding of the UST through our platform or from SWIG, former SWIG, of course, those partners will have a number of privileges that will allow us not to start from scratch, but from elevated ranks and bonuses. But more about that later. And that will be mentioned at the closed meeting, because closed meetings are aimed at our active partners that are actively participating in our partnership network. Partners are asking, can we have the discount 600 on the new platform that they had stopped paying and they would like to resume paying? Well, unfortunately not, because if you remember, one of the terms and conditions of discount 600 was to continue paying for it. Remember? So discount 600 stops either when the partner stops paying or until the fundraising ends. So it's either on the partner side or the company side. And in this case, if a person stopped paying for discount 600, they will not have a second chance to have it on the Micron Global. If you're still paying for your discount 600, if you still have access to this discount and you didn't break your obligations, then of course that discount will be migrated to Micron Global as well. Guys, there is a huge question in Hindi. I'm not able to read it. So Satish, if you have a question, I always ask you to first translate that question in Google Translate and then copy paste the translation into the chat into Russian. Will there be a short presentation of the company on the new platform for newcomers in order for them to be able to promote the company? Of course, there will be marketing materials presentations on the new platform, and they will be added gradually because at first we're going to have the information delivered through at our meetings, our broadcasts, but shortly, like in a couple of weeks, we will add additional content, presentational content, promotional content that will make your work easier. Everything related to training, corporate training, and user manuals, etc. Nitish, I read your question. Your case is an individual case. Please write me a letter to me personally again, and I will try and help you. Okay, Nitish, write me in person again. And then someone is asking, will there be a PDF presentation? Dennis is asking. Yes, there will be. So I already answered the discount 600 question. How many unsold pre-IPO shares we still have? Well, Manoj is saying shares, but this is not a correct terminology. It's pre-IPO shares, not shares. As for the unsold pre-IPO shares, we have around 70 billion unsold shares. In case of direct inheritance from parents if they die, do we need a will? Because usually children are direct heirs of their parents. Shouldn't a death certificate be enough? Well, usually it takes half a year to come into full ownership of your deceased parents, of your deceased parents' assets. So, Dmitry, I'm not sure why you're asking this question because the previous question was a little bit different. It was about being able to nominate your heir on the platform. So it should all follow the law. Why do you still have 70 billion pre-IPO shares to sell if the high-speed transportation is going to be available for investing in a different jurisdiction? So HP is asking. It has nothing to do with the high-speed transportation in a different jurisdiction. I answered that question on several occasions during my different meetings, but let me repeat the answer. 2 meetings ago, it was one but last, I mentioned that the string transportation is still at its venture stage. So it's still a venture project, not fully like innovation project. And now it's the most important period in the entire timeline of the UST implementation. Why it's so important? Because right now the company has everything to go to the market. But that everything is a huge group of companies and assets that require funds for its operations. I'm talking about the engineering company that has around 600 engineers on staff, and the total number of personnel in the entire group of companies is around 1,000 people, which requires daily funding, from salaries to paying taxes to maintaining software, lease of real estate, utilities, machinery, hardware, funding marketing activities. We're talking about millions of dollars per month. So the reason I'm saying it's a very most important period right now, there is a lot of interest shown to GTI and engineering company, and the interest is growing, and we can see it every single quarter, trimester. We see the level growing and growing. We see more and more higher and higher governmental officials and private companies showing interest in the technology and company. But in order to spin that mechanism, that whole machine, the GTI needs to withstand that critical period when it still doesn't have a stable financial cash flow or stable cash flow that would allow it to maintain its operations. So the company doesn't yet have that required amount of orders that would bring enough cash to maintain its operations. So the engineering activities are not enough, do not generate enough money. But the company still has a lot of billions of unsold pre-IPO shares that were originally allocated for fundraising. And also, there are lots of shares, pre-IPO shares, owned by the author himself that he can dispose of in any way he sees fit. So the original number of shares, unsold shares, is 70 billion, still unsold. And the company can use those unsold pre-IPO shares to sell them to maintain its operations, to fund its operations. And the orders that will be coming to the company during that period will generate profits, revenues, and then investors will be able to share in those potential profits even before the company launches its IPO. So as for the high-speed transportation system, I also mentioned it on numerous occasions during my previous broadcasts. You can go and watch them on YouTube. I gave a detailed explanation. It was meetings about high-speed transportation, by the way. And if you just remember what I said there, the 15th stage was about high-speed transportation. But because high-speed transportation was singled out as a separate project, which is a very correct, strategically wise decision of the owner, because if it was decided to fund high-speed transportation only through crowd investing, it would take dozens of years, because crowd investing doesn't allow to raise enough money for such a resource-intensive project as high-speed transportation, which requires millions of dollars of investments. So crowd investing, though, successfully solved the task of raising funds for UST with the current amount raised. And Dr. Nitsky showed brilliance in optimizing costs and using the raised amount to launch two commercial products into the market: passenger and cargo transportation solutions. So if we all put it together, all those facts, what I said also during the last year, this year, you will get an answer to a question. But if you can't do that, if you can't see the answer, then wait please for the official document from the GTI company published on its website. We will all see it, and there will be a very detailed explanation of everything. So dear partner, HP, username HP. I think you could you should just rewatch some of the recordings of my explanations during our previous meetings, and I gave the answer to your question so many times. Probably 5 or 6 hours are dedicated to this question. Okay, what's next? As for the ranks on Micron Global platform, we will have that information at a closed meeting that we will have next week. There is a good question from proposal from Sergey. If I don't want to receive my dividends, do I have the right to reinvest? I'm sure you will have this option to reinvest and not to withdraw your payouts. I think this is the best way to dispose of your payouts. Because even if we start receiving payouts, we need to be realistic because the payouts will not going to be very high at first. Because we don't have quite a lot of orders right now that would generate a lot of money, a lot of profit in order for the company to pay big dividends or payouts. So I see a lot of words of thanks for my answers. Thank you very much. Andrei says, Dr. Initsky, I think Dr. Initsky said a couple of years ago that finally, the engineering company finally became self-sustainable. Well, yes, Dr. Initsky did mention it in 2023, if I'm not mistaken, but there is one caveat here. We need to understand the context about self-sustainability. Probably it was self-sustainable in 2023, but then we have year 2024 and 2025, where I can tell you for sure that I don't yet see that orders from the external market would cover all the operational costs of the entire group of companies. So probably the engineering company might have reached their self-sustainability, but not the entire group of companies, including marketing company and representative offices, etc. So currently, I'm not sure that the entire group is self-sustainable. Do I understand it correctly that in case of direct inheritance from parents to children, you don't need a will? Well, yes, Dmitry, because children are direct heirs of their parents, right? And, well, there are different cases, of course. Maybe that's how it usually happens. If a person leaves us and during their life they wrote a will, then in that will they nominate their heirs. It's last will, right, of the person. This is case A. Case B, when assets are being divided. If a person leaves this world without leaving a will, then the inheritance law kicks in that regulates, governs the inheritance. Who gets what from the assets of the deceased? Who has the first line of inheritance, second line of inheritance, etc. Okay, colleagues, I see a lot of questions that are being repeated, and now the questions you have run out of questions, and we have worked more than an hour now, and I would like to thank you for your active participation. And remember that we're going to have a joint meeting with our colleagues from SWC, and we are going to have a joint meeting dedicated to, first of all, to our joint activities in raising funds for the UST technology, and we're waiting for the GTI official document, a memorandum that will show us the development strategy for the next 10 years, how the GTI company is going to develop in the next 10 years. And this document will give information about it will give data information about or shed light on many of the questions that you had this year, probably in the last year, previous years. I'm sure all that information will be there, and we will have a clear vision of where the company is going in the next 10, 20 years. As for our regular meeting, the schedule is the same. We're going to have our regular meeting next Saturday, same time. As for the closed meeting, then please wait for the announcement on our official channels. So, colleagues, thank you very much for your participation, your attendance today, and see you next time, next week. Thank you for your attention. Bye bye.